The German Shepherd surged forward without warning, muscles coiling like a spring before his jaws clamped onto a matte black suitcase gliding down the airport conveyor belt. The snap of teeth striking the hard shell echoed through the baggage hall. A few travelers yelped, others froze mid-stride. Several phones went up instantly. People always recorded before they understood. But Rex understood something. His handler, Officer Mark Hale, was yanked a step forward. "Rex, off! Leave it!" he ordered, voice sharp, controlled, but edged with the kind of fear only experience could carve. The dog didn't even blink. He dug in harder, growling from deep in his chest, low and primal, a sound Mark had only heard twice in the 5 years they had worked together, and both times had preceded a life-or-death discovery. The tension in the air thickened, pressing down on the crowd like invisible hands. No one knew what was inside that suitcase yet, but Rex did. He refused to release the bag, not when 2 officers rushed over, not when the conveyor belt kept dragging the suitcase forward, forcing him to brace all 4 paws against the metal edge, not even when his handler gripped the collar and commanded again, "Rex, stand down!" The dog didn't stand down. He doubled down. Passengers backed away. Parents pulled kids behind them. Security guards raised their hands, urging the crowd to keep distance. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. Mark's heart pounded against his bulletproof vest. Rex had never reacted like this to narcotics, never this violently with explosives. This was different, urgent, instinctive, desperate. He glanced at the officers approaching. "Get the belt stopped, now!" Within seconds, the conveyor halted with a grinding clunk, the suitcase stuck halfway in Rex's jaws and halfway on the metal slats. Rex growled louder. "What the hell is in there?" one officer muttered. Mark didn't answer. He couldn't, because he had the same question and a sick feeling he wouldn't like the answer. The bomb squad was already being radioed in. Sirens echoed faintly from deeper inside the terminal. Travelers were ushered back, security forming a perimeter. Some people stood on chairs to record, because nothing terrified people more than danger, unless they could film it from a safe distance. Rex didn't care about the chaos around him. His focus was absolute, eye sharp, pupils tight, breath heavy and fast. His hackles stood like raised wires. Mark crouched beside him, speaking low. "Rex, talk to me, buddy. What are you sensing?" The dog didn't break eye contact with the suitcase. He growled again, short, clipped, warning-filled. Whatever was inside that case wasn't a threat to the airport. It was a threat to him, and that terrified Mark more than anything else. Minutes later, the bomb squad stormed in, armored, tense, and ready. The lead team, Commander Austin, gave Rex a quick look before addressing Mark. "Your dog ever latch on like this?" "Twice," Mark said. "And?" "Both times, someone didn't go home." Commander Austin exhaled slowly. "All right, everyone back. K9 stays. Let's see what we're dealing with." Rex growled again, jaw locked around the handle like he feared it might vanish if he let go. The lead technician approached cautiously with protective gloves and a scanning device. He passed the tool over the case once, twice, 3 times. No beep, no chemical warning, no explosive residue. The device didn't detect drugs either, yet Rex refused to release it. "What the hell?" the tech murmured. "The scanner's picking up nothing." "Open it," Rex's handler said quietly. The bomb squad exchanged looks. Opening a suspicious case with a K9 acting like this wasn't protocol. But something in Rex's posture, rigid, unyielding, desperate, told them this wasn't a standard threat. Mark put a hand on Rex's neck. "Easy, boy. I know. Finally, with the entire terminal holding its breath, the bomb squad's lead knelt down and slowly started unzipping the suitcase, inch by inch. The zipper's metallic rasp felt like nails dragging down metal. Officers leaned in, travelers stared from behind barricades, even the humming of the terminal system seemed to fade. And when the suitcase finally opened, every officer in the circle inhaled sharply. Every passenger watching fell silent. Even Rex stopped growling. What lay inside wasn't a weapon. It wasn't money. It wasn't narcotics. Instead, nestled in a bed of rumpled clothing, wrapped in a torn blanket, was something so unexpected, so chilling, that even hardened airport security officers stepped back a full foot. A toddler, barely 2 years old, pale, motionless, eyes half opened, unfocused. A soft, trembling whimper escaped the child's cracked lips, the only sound in the terminal besides the startled gasp of dozens of onlookers. Rex immediately released the handle and nudged forward, whining softly, as if confirming the child was alive. Mark's stomach dropped. "What is that? Who would—" The question shot through the air like bullets, but none of the officers had answers. The child blinked weakly, too exhausted to cry. Commander Austin spoke first, his voice tinged with disbelief. "That suitcase came off the Madrid flight, right?" A nearby baggage handler nodded numbly. "Flight 218, yes." Mark stared at the half-conscious child. Someone had packed him into a suitcase like he was luggage. Someone wanted this child hidden, silenced, discarded. And if not for Rex's instinct, he wouldn't have made it off the plane alive. Mark felt a cold, burning anger rising through him. This wasn't abandonment, he muttered. This was something else, something planned. The bomb tech swallowed hard. Why bring a child like this across the world in a suitcase? Mark didn't take his eyes off the child. Someone didn't want him to survive the trip. Paramedics rushed in, lifting the toddler out carefully as Rex whimpered anxiously, pacing. Mark looked down at his partner, the dog who'd sensed danger before anyone else. "You saved him," he whispered. But the moment felt too heavy for praise. Because 2 new officers ran over, pale and frantic. "Sir, you need to see the luggage manifest." Mark turned sharply. "What about it?" The officer handed him a printed sheet. 1 suitcase, checked in under a fake name, no accompanying passenger, no digital trail. But one detail chilled Mark to his core. This wasn't the only suitcase checked under that fake name. There were supposed to be 2. Only one had reached the belt. Mark felt his blood run cold. "Where's the second suitcase?" No one answered. Rex stiffened beside him, ears up, nose lifting sharply. Mark's heart hammered. "Rex has a scent," he whispered. "He's tracking something." The German shepherd turned toward the far end of the terminal, toward the restricted cargo zone. Mark tightened the grip on the leash. "Everyone move, now!" Because the suitcase wasn't the end. It was only the beginning, and whatever secret that toddler carried, someone was willing to kill to keep it buried. Chaos rippled across Terminal 4. Radios crackling, officers shouting commands, passengers herded back behind makeshift barriers. But amid the noise, Mark heard only one sound: Rex's low, urgent growl. The German shepherd tugged at the leash with a single-minded focus, pulling Mark toward the far end of the terminal, past baggage claim, past the staff-only corridor, toward an area few people ever saw: the cargo transfer zone. That was where luggage either got loaded onto planes or disappeared forever. Mark's boots slammed against the polished floor. "Everyone clear a path," he barked. Officers pushed civilians aside as Rex practically dragged him forward. Commander Austin kept pace behind them, radioing updates. "We confirmed it," Austin said grimly. There were 2 suitcases checked under that false identity. One reached the carousel, the other never did. Mark clenched his jaw. So someone intercepted it? Or someone working inside the airport intentionally diverted it, Austin replied. Inside job. It was the only explanation. Rex suddenly paused, nose pressing to the tiled floor, inhaling deeply. Then he bolted again, dragging Mark toward a side door marked Authorized Personnel Only. Mark flashed his ID at the 2 startled cargo workers standing there. K9 emergency. Open it.
The workers scrambled to unlock the door. The second it swung open, Rex surged through, growling louder now, his claws skidding against the concrete floor of the cargo corridor. "What do you smell, boy?" Mark whispered, breath short with adrenaline. Rex didn't look back. He just ran. The hallway buzzed with machinery, conveyor belts, forklifts transporting crates, workers shouting to be heard over the noise. But the second they saw the armed officers and the tense canine, everything slowed. Rex ignored all of it. His nose swept left, then right, then low to the ground. Then suddenly, the dog froze. Head up, body stiff, ears pointed straight ahead like arrowheads. He locked onto something only he could sense. "Talk to me," Mark muttered, crouching beside him. Rex lifted a paw and pressed it onto the concrete floor, then began pulling Mark toward a large sliding metal door leading to the international cargo hold. Austin swore under his breath. "That area's massive. Crates, storage containers, cold units, unclaimed freight." "And a missing suitcase," Mark cut in. Rex growled, louder this time. He pawed aggressively at the door. "He knows it's in there," Mark said. Austin nodded to the nearby workers. "Open it." The door rolled up with a metallic groan. Cold, recycled air blasted them. Rows of towering storage shelves stretched into the distance. The overhead fluorescent lights flickered slightly, casting long shadows across the floor. It felt like stepping into another world. Silent, industrial, eerie. Rex took one step inside, then another, then broke into a full sprint. Mark chased him. Austin and two officers followed close behind. Rex wove between pallets, slid around corners, and ducked under a row of stacked crates. His tail was rigid, his movements sharp with purpose. "He's on to something big," Austin muttered. Mark didn't respond. He was too busy following Rex as the dog suddenly veered left and skidded to a stop beside a stack of unlabeled cargo boxes. But he didn't growl this time. He whimpered. A heartbreaking, uncertain whine. Mark's chest tightened. "What is it, buddy?" he murmured. Rex sniffed the air, one long inhale, then slowly turned his head toward a metal shipping container about 10 feet away. Its latch hung crookedly. One hinge showed signs of recent force, and there, on the dusty floor, was something small. Something that made Mark's blood run cold. A child's sock. Pink. Patterned with tiny white stars. About the size that would fit a toddler. Austin's eyes widened. "Oh no, don't tell me." Rex let out a deep, mournful howl. Mark felt the sound in his bones. "We need this container open, now." Two cargo workers ran over with crowbars. Austin added, "No cameras in this section. Whoever did this knew exactly where to bring that suitcase." Mark swallowed hard. This wasn't random. This wasn't a panicked smuggling attempt. This was intentional, deliberate, cruel. The crowbars wedged under the metal lip. A grunt, a crack, then finally, the door swung open. Every officer stepped back. Even the crowbar men stepped aside, fear etched across their faces. Mark raised his flashlight. The beam cut through darkness. The first thing he saw was piles of empty luggage, some with airline tags still attached. Over a dozen suitcases. Discarded. Abandoned. But the second suitcase, the mate to the one Rex had attacked, was nowhere to be seen. "What the hell?" Austin whispered. Rex walked inside slowly, sniffing the ground. His nails clicked softly against the metal. Mark followed him. There was a faint smell in the air. Chemical, sharp, wrong. Rex turned sharply toward the back wall and began barking, violently, desperately. Mark hurried over. There, behind a row of crates, was a smear of blood no larger than a coin, and beside it, another child's sock. This one, blue. Same pattern. Same tiny size. Austin's eyes widened. "Oh no, don't tell me." "Mark, there's more than one kid involved." The words felt like a gut punch. Rex whimpered and pressed his nose against a scuff mark on the metal floor, a drag mark, barely visible. Something heavy had been pulled across it. Something Rex recognized. Rex barked again, then bolted out of the container, following the trail. "Move!" Mark shouted. They ran, past refrigerated units, past towering storage shelves, past forklifts that screeched to a stop as the officers passed. Rex cut a sharp corner into a smaller loading bay, a place used only for privately chartered cargo. Mark skidded to a stop behind him. A truck. White. Unmarked. Engine running. Two men stood by the back doors, one holding a clipboard, the other arguing into a phone in Spanish. Rex growled. Both men turned. Their eyes went wide. One bolted instantly toward the exit. The other reached for his waistband. Too fast. "Hands up!" Mark yelled, drawing his gun. "Don't move!" The man froze. Austin chased the runner, tackling him before he made 10 feet. Mark approached the truck slowly, gun raised, Rex snarling beside him. "Open the doors, now!" The man hesitated. Rex barked, teeth bared. The man, shaking hands, released the latch and pulled the doors open. The interior was dark, cold, silent. Mark lifted his flashlight. His heart slammed against his chest. Inside the truck were 4 more suitcases, identical, black, hardshell, just like the one on the carousel. Mark felt a cold sweat break across his forehead. Oh God. Rex stiffened. Austin jogged back. "What are we looking at?" His voice died. He saw it too.
Austin exhaled shakily. "Mark, we need Child Services, the FBI, and Homeland Security. Right now." Mark didn't move. His flashlight hovered over the suitcases. All of them sealed. All of them silent. "We open them one at a time," Mark said quietly. Rex growled, eyes glued to the cases. Austin nodded. "Everyone stand clear." The first suitcase was lifted down. Unlocked. Opened. Inside. Blankets, pacifiers, baby clothes. But no child. The next suitcase, the same. The third, empty except for tiny shoes. The fourth. Mark's hands trembled. He unzipped it slowly. Everyone leaned in. Inside was something far worse than bodies. Documents, photos, a ledger, names, ages, flight routes, prices. It wasn't one child. It wasn't 2. It was an entire operation. International, organized, profitable. And the toddler Rex saved? He wasn't a mistake. He was a missing delivery. Mark felt sick. Rex whined softly. Because somewhere in the airport, or maybe already beyond it, a child or multiple children were still missing. Mark lowered his head, whispering to Rex, "We're going to find them, buddy. All of them." Rex barked once, sharp, determined. The hunt was far from over, and whatever they uncovered next would be darker than anyone was ready for. Officer Mark Daniels stood frozen as the suitcase lay half unzipped on the cold metal table, its contents still hidden beneath a layer of dark fabric. For a moment, the world outside the security base seemed to fall away. The chatter of passengers, the rolling wheels, the boarding announcements, all replaced by a thick, humming silence that clung to everyone in the room. Rex stood stiffly at Mark's side, tail rigid, ears pinned forward. The dog's gaze never wavered from the suitcase. Every muscle in his body twitched with a restrained urgency, as if he knew that whatever was inside demanded absolute caution.
A member of the bomb squad stepped forward, a tall woman named Sergeant Olivia Grant, known for her calm precision. She knelt slowly, eyes analyzing every crease in the fabric. No wires yet, no ticking, no chemical indicators, she murmured, more to her team than to Mark. But his reaction is off the charts. Mark swallowed hard. He's never behaved like this before. Olivia glanced at Rex. Instincts like that don't lie. Another officer, Ramirez, stood near the entrance, hand resting on his holster. His eyes darted between the suitcase and a growing cluster of anxious travelers pressing behind the tape line. Some held their phones up, recording. Others clutched their luggage, unsure whether to stay or run. Olivia signaled them back. "Everyone away from the windows, now!" Passengers scattered. The room brightened as the morning sun fully broke through the glass walls, casting sharp beams that made the metallic table gleam like something sacred and forbidden. Olivia slipped on a pair of reinforced gloves and nodded at Mark. "Keep your dog steady." "Rex," he whispered, lowering his voice. "Stay." The German shepherd's lip twitched, but he obeyed. Barely. Olivia took a slow breath, then pulled the zipper the rest of the way. The fabric peeled back like a curtain. And then, silence. Total, crushing silence. Mark leaned forward slightly, expecting a tangle of explosives, bricks of drugs, some smuggled contraband. But it wasn't any of that. Inside the suitcase lay a small, temperature-controlled container, square, foam-lined, sealed like a medical specimen unit. Frost clung to the sides as if it had been kept at an unnaturally cold temperature moments before arriving. A digital display blinked on the lid with a soft blue light. Numbers scrolled slowly across the screen. "What the hell?" Ramirez muttered. Olivia didn't touch it yet. Instead, she inspected the interior of the suitcase around it. Several items had been packed deliberately around the container: silica packets, thermal insulation, and what looked like specialized shock absorbers. This isn't smuggling. This is transport. Professional transport. Of what? Olivia finally reached for the container, her fingers moving like she was disarming an alien artifact. She pressed the release latch. The lock clicked softer than expected. Rex stepped forward, emitting a sharp bark that made everyone flinch. "Easy, Rex!" Mark tightened his grip. Olivia flipped the latch fully open. The lid rose, and then the revelation hit them all at once. Inside the container was a set of vials, 6 total, arranged neatly in a cushioned insert. Each vial held a clear, faintly luminescent liquid that shimmered even under the harsh security lights. The labels were printed in a language Mark didn't immediately recognize, though a few letters resembled Cyrillic script. Under each label was a date, recent dates, within the last 3 months. But that wasn't what made Rex react, not the vials. It was the small object tucked beneath them, a sealed plastic pouch wrapped in sterile gauze. Something organic. Olivia hesitated, then lifted the pouch with 2 fingers. The gauze was thin enough that everyone could see the shape inside. Irregular, fleshy, unsettlingly human-like. Ramirez gagged. "Is that— No, it can't be." Mark's mind raced. "It looks like tissue. Human tissue." Rex growled again, deeper, darker, as if he confirmed it. Olivia spread the gauze slightly to verify. What she revealed made even her, a veteran of bomb scenes and disaster cleanups, recoil a step. It was a piece of human skin, pale, preserved, fresh, not decomposing, and not taken gently. A collective breath supped through the room as the implication slammed into everyone at once. "That's why he reacted," Mark whispered. Rex's instincts had bypassed drugs, explosives. He had scented blood, human blood, and something else: fear, adrenaline, trauma, a cocktail of scents that no machine could detect. Olivia's hands trembled for the first time. "This isn't smuggling," she said quietly. "This is research material, illegal research material. Something human, harvested, and shipped like cargo. But what are the vials? Ramirez asked. Olivia turned them toward the light. Mark stepped closer. The liquid shifted with a faint glimmering pulse, like something living. The label showed strings of numbers, sequences too long to be simple IDs. Each vial had a series identifier next to it, CH10, CH11, CH12. Those look like genetic markers, Mark said. Olivia nodded slowly. Not standard ones, though. These aren't clinical samples. These are experimental. Experimental for what? The accusation echoed across the room. Olivia stared at the vials. I need a hazmat team, now. Ramirez grabbed his radio. On it. Olivia turned to Mark. And you stay with Rex. If he reacts again, I want to know immediately. Mark nodded numbly. The room seemed to darken even as the sunlight burned brighter outside. Fear crept across every face, fear of something unseen, something that had traveled thousands of miles undetected until one dog sensed the truth. Mark's pulse hammered. Human tissue, genetically marked vials, a temperature-controlled container hidden inside a basic suitcase. And one more thing that everyone else overlooked. The luggage tag. It hung from the handle, still attached, still unexamined. Mark lifted it expecting a forged name, a fake address, something meaningless. Instead, the name printed on the tag made his breath stop. Dr. Leon Fisher. Mark knew that name. Everyone in law enforcement did. Because 3 years ago, Dr. Fisher had vanished after being accused of leading a rogue genetic experiment project that was shut down by multiple international agencies. Files were scrubbed, labs were destroyed, and Fisher himself had disappeared without a trace. Until now. The suitcase wasn't contraband. It was a message, a trail, a warning. Mark stared at the container again, the cold mist still rising from it. Rex didn't just find evidence, he found him. Olivia looked sharply at him. Fisher? Or whatever he's been doing in the shadows. A long, terrible silence filled the room. Then, for the first time since the zipper had opened, Rex whimpered, not in fear, but in anticipation, as if he knew this was far from over. As if something bigger was already moving toward them. Something coming. Something they were never supposed to uncover.
The security bay buzzed with frantic activity as hazmat teams arrived, sealing off the area with caution tape and mobile containment shields. Travelers were evacuated from the perimeter within minutes, leaving the once crowded terminal eerily quiet. Mark stood with Rex pressed close to his side, the German shepherd's breathing slow but tense, eyes locked on the suitcase, as if the danger inside might burst free at any moment. Sergeant Olivia Grant oversaw the setup of a portable isolation chamber, her voice calm yet razor-sharp as she coordinated her team. But underneath the controlled exterior, Mark could see the fear gnawed at her. People like Olivia didn't scare easily. Bombs and chemical leaks were her daily battlefield. But this was different. This wasn't a threat she could place, categorize, or diffuse. Mark, she called, stepping toward him. We've got a problem. Just one? He muttered. She handed him a tablet showing zoomed-in images of the vials found in the suitcase. The shimmering liquid inside glowed faintly even under the camera's infrared filter. This isn't any known biological agent. It's not viral, not bacterial. It reacts to temperature. It completes sequences. It shifts. Shifts? Mark frowned deeply. It behaves like coded DNA, but it's not. It's like... She hesitated. Like something trying to finish itself. A chill crawled up Mark's spine. Rex growled softly, ears pinned flat in discomfort. Whatever was inside those vials wasn't just dangerous, it was wrong. Before Mark could respond, a group of officers rushed toward them. Ramirez led the pack, breathless and pale. Daniels, we've got a situation at the north checkpoint. Olivia stiffened. What kind of situation?
A man, late 50s. He's asking for airport security, specifically for the person who found his suitcase. Mark's stomach clenched. Did he give a name? Ramirez swallowed hard. Dr. Leon Fisher. Everything inside Mark went cold. Olivia turned sharply. Where is he now? We've got him contained in the interview room, but he's not resisting. He walked right up to the officers and said, "You've opened it by now. Take me to it." Rex barked once, sharp, urgent. Mark exchanged a look with Olivia. They needed to see him, but every instinct said they shouldn't. Still, security protocol demanded it, and so did the truth. Mark gripped Rex's leash and followed Olivia and Ramirez through the secure hallway leading to the airport's interview wing. The fluorescent lights hummed as they moved, each step echoing over sterile floors. Mark's heart beat in his ears. Rex walked in perfect cadence beside him, but tension rippled through the dog's body like electricity. When they reached interview room 3, Ramirez paused at the door. 2 guards inside with him, guns drawn but lowered. He hasn't made a single aggressive move. Mark pushed in. Dr. Leon Fisher sat calmly in the metal chair, hands folded on the table. His hair, once dark in photos Mark had seen, was now silvered and thin. Deep lines carved his face, but his eyes, sharp, unsettlingly bright, were filled with an unnatural calm. He didn't look like a fugitive. He looked like a man expecting company. Rex snarled instantly. Fisher smiled faintly. Ah, the dog. Mark stepped closer, keeping Rex positioned between them. Dr. Fisher, you know why you're here. I know exactly why I'm here, because you opened the suitcase. Olivia entered beside Mark. Explain the contents. He tilted his head, studying her. You wouldn't understand if I told you, and I don't say that insultingly. You simply haven't seen what I've seen. Try us, Olivia snapped. Fisher laced his fingers slowly, deliberately. What you found isn't a weapon. At least, it wasn't supposed to be. Human tissue, illegal samples, unidentified biological material. If that isn't a weapon, then enlighten us. A cure, he corrected softly. Mark's jaw tightened. A cure for what? Fisher looked at Rex again. Something coming. Rex bared his teeth. Olivia stepped forward. We need specifics. What are those vials? Prototype evolutionary material, he corrected. DNA that can rewrite itself to adapt to new threats. Viruses, bacteria, genetic decay, you name it. Perfect immunity, crafted at the molecular level. That's impossible, Olivia said. So was flight once, or antibiotics, or mapping the human genome. He leaned back slightly. We weren't creating a disease. We were creating evolution. Mark shook his head. And the skin? He paused for the first time, eyes dimming. A donor. Someone who volunteered. Someone who believed in what we were doing. The tissue carries markers that interact with the sequence in the vials. It's harmless on its own. Then why hide it in a suitcase? Because people fear what they don't understand. Governments, corporations, everyone wanted their hands on it. Not to cure disease, but to weaponize the concept. You vanished 3 years ago. Your lab was destroyed. Yes, he whispered, by the same people who were funding us. They didn't want evolution. They wanted control. Rex barked loudly, startling one of the guards. Fisher didn't flinch. If anything, he seemed to consider the dog's reaction a confirmation. Your partner senses the truth, he said quietly. Animals always know before humans do. And what truth is that? That something is already spreading. Something no one has detected yet. Something silent and brilliant and merciless. Nature's correction. A pathogen that doesn't act like a pathogen. And my work is the only thing that can stop it. Mark's blood ran cold. Why bring it here? Because I'm running out of time. Someone followed me.
Someone wants the research destroyed, and me with it. And if they succeed, he looked down at his hands, millions will die. Rex snarled so violently that Mark had to tighten the leash. But Fisher didn't seem afraid of the dog, not even slightly. Instead, his eyes softened. He understands. He smells the fear. He smells the sickness in me. Mark's breath caught. What sickness? Fisher met his eyes with a tired, resigned gaze. I'm infected. He said simply, I've been carrying the pathogen for months. It's slow, subtle, undetectable by modern tests. But your dog knows. Dogs always know. Rex whined, backing slightly, not from fear, but recognition. Olivia whispered, You're telling us you're contagious? Yes, he said, but not in the way you think. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. What's inside that suitcase is the only thing keeping me alive. Without it, I wouldn't last another week. Mark felt the room tilt around him. Olivia stepped back instinctively. Ramirez's hand flew to his radio. And in that instant, Fisher raised his hands, not in surrender, but in urgency. You have to protect it, he pleaded. They're coming. Whoever tracked me will come for the samples, and if they get them, everything ends. A piercing alarm suddenly erupted in the hallway. Security breach. Rex spun toward the exit, barking frantically. Olivia grabbed her weapon. What the hell? Ramirez shouted from the hall. We've got intruders! Armed! East corridor! Mark's pulse exploded. Fisher stood slowly, eyes burning with dread. It's them, he whispered. They're here. Rex lunged toward the exit, barking with fury. And just like that, the airport was no longer a crime scene. It was a battlefield.
Chaos detonated through the airport, like a shockwave. The alarm blared overhead, a shrill pulse that rattled nerves and sent flocks of travelers scrambling for exits. Officers sprinted across the polished floors, radios crackling, boots pounding, shouts overlapping. The calm, orderly world of Terminal 4 collapsed into panic within seconds. Mark shoved open the interview room door as Rex lunged first, teeth bared, barking with a fierce urgency that cut through the noise like a blade. Move! Mark barked to the two guards stationed outside. Get everyone out of this hall! But they didn't need the order. Terror was a powerful motivator. One guard was already racing toward the security check, yelling for evac teams. The other stood frozen, white-knuckled, staring down the corridor where the breach had occurred. Mark couldn't waste time snapping him out of it. He grabbed Rex's harness and pushed forward. Olivia rushed beside him, weapon drawn. Ramirez covered the rear, glancing back toward the interview room where Fisher remained standing calmly, hands lifted, not surrendering, but waiting. Don't let them get the suitcase! Fisher shouted over the alarm. We won't! Mark shot back without slowing. But even as he said it, dread coiled in his chest. Whoever these intruders were, they weren't here to talk. They were here to take or destroy whatever Fisher had risked his life to protect. When Mark rounded the corner, everything happened at once. A masked figure dressed in airport maintenance gear flashed into view, except the uniform was wrong. Too crisp, too clean, too deliberate. The intruder raised something metallic. Down! Olivia yelled. A flash burst from the intruder's arm, an arc of blue-white light that cracked like lightning, a stun round, non-lethal but powerful enough to drop an elephant. Rex lunged before Mark could react. The dog slammed into Mark's knees, knocking him sideways and out of the arc's path. The blast smashed into the wall, scorching it black. Go! Mark shouted as he scrambled up. Rex was already moving, teeth flashing as he charged the intruder with lethal precision. The intruder swung the device toward him, but fumbled, too slow. Rex leapt. The intruder screamed as the dog clamped down on their forearm. They twisted, trying to shake him off, but Rex held on with a fury Mark had never seen, not even on bomb calls or suspect takedowns. It wasn't just aggression. It was instinct. An instinct that said the people in front of him meant real danger. More intruders appeared behind the first. 3, maybe 4. Faces hidden, movements synchronized, each one carrying similar stun weapons.
Olivia fired a warning shot. "Drop the weapons and get on the ground!" The intruders didn't listen. They moved with a swift, practiced coordination that sent a jolt of cold through Mark. These weren't amateurs, not thieves, not terrorists in the usual sense. These people were trained. A stun bolt shot toward Olivia. She dodged behind a column. Ramirez fired back, the shot ricocheting off the metal railing and sending sparks flying. The alarm continued blaring. Travelers screamed in distant corridors. Another blast sizzled past Mark, missing him by inches. He ducked behind a luggage trolley, Rex still locked on to the first intruder. Mark aimed and fired a suppression round, forcing two of the masked figures to dive behind a metal divider. The intruder Rex had pinned swung desperately with their free hand, punching the dog's ribs. Mark's blood ignited. "Let him go!" he roared, tackling the attacker from behind. They hit the floor hard. Rex released the grip, spun, and positioned himself between Mark and the two intruders advancing from the left. But before they could get closer, a new sound cut through the chaos. A sharp, clipped whistle. It echoed down the hallway and made every intruder freeze for a split second. Rex growled, fur bristling. Mark's stomach turned. Someone was controlling them. Someone else was here. A tall figure stepped out from the smoke drifting through the corridor, dressed in a black coat, moving with the slow confidence of someone who feared nothing in front of them. The mask covering the figure's face had a reflective surface like a dark mirror. The figure surveyed the scene calmly, then lifted a gloved hand. Enough. That single word carried across the chaos like a quiet threat. Olivia tightened her grip on her gun. "Drop your weapon and step forward." Rex snarled so viciously, Mark felt the vibration through the leash. The masked figure tilted their head slightly, as though studying the dog. "Impressive," the stranger murmured. "Canines always know what humans pretend not to see." Mark stepped forward, gun raised. "Who are you? What do you want?" The masked figure didn't look at him. Instead, they looked past Mark, toward the interview room, toward Fisher. And then, everything clicked for Mark. The suitcase, the vials, the tissue, the pathogen, the destruction of the lab, the disappearance. This wasn't random. This was personal. The figure lowered their hand. "Retrieve the samples," they ordered. Before Mark could react, the intruders surged forward again, ignoring the gunfire, ignoring Rex's snarls, executing the command with a terrifying lack of hesitation. They weren't here to escape. They were here to complete a mission. Mark fired 3 shots in rapid succession, forcing 2 intruders to retreat, but the other pair sprinted straight toward the containment unit where the suitcase had been taken earlier. "Stop them!" Olivia shouted, but they were too fast. And there were too many. Ramirez tried to intercept, but took a stun bolt to the shoulder, dropping instantly. Olivia dragged him behind cover, cursing under her breath. Mark sprinted with Rex, but as they rounded the corner, he saw it. The containment unit was cracked open, and one of the intruders was holding the suitcase. Rex barked frantically, the sound echoing like a siren. Mark lifted his gun. A stun round slammed into his chest. The impact was brutal, like being kicked by a horse. His vision blurred. Air vanished from his lungs. He fell backwards on the cold floor, ears ringing, worlds spinning in dull pulses of white and gray. Rex howled and leapt, ripping into the attacker's leg, but another masked figure fired a stun shot straight into Rex's side. "No!" Mark's voice was torn from him. Rex yelped, a sound Mark had never heard from him, a sound that ripped him open from the inside. The dog collapsed beside him, twitching, then going still. Not dead, Mark could see his chest rising, but paralyzed. The masked leader stepped forward, suitcase in hand, gazing down at Mark with cold indifference. "You shouldn't have interfered," the figure said quietly. Mark tried to lift his arm, tried to reach Rex, tried to draw breath, but his body wouldn't listen. "You don't understand what's coming," the masked figure continued, "but you will." With a gesture, they signaled their team.
Within seconds, the intruders vanished down the emergency corridor, swift, ghost-like, leaving behind only scorch marks, scattered shell casings, and the faint echo of departing footsteps. The alarm kept screaming. Mark lay on the ground helpless, staring at Rex, his partner, his friend, his lifeline. Rex's eyes blinked weakly, trying to reach him even through the paralysis. Mark's throat burned as he whispered, "I've got you, buddy. I won't let them win." I forced my body to move inch by inch, dragging myself across the floor until my hand reached Rex's fur. Sirens wailed in the distance as emergency teams rushed in. Olivia sprinted toward them, blood on her forehead, fury burning in her eyes. "They got the suitcase," she said breathless. "They took everything." Mark swallowed, voice cracking. "Then we go after them." Because now the threat wasn't contained. It was out there. And whoever had stolen the samples didn't just have Fisher's research. They had something far more dangerous. A beginning.
The airport had never felt this quiet. Not even in the dead of night. Not even during storms that grounded entire fleets of planes. This silence was heavier, thicker, like grief had settled into the walls themselves. Mark sat on the edge of the canine medical bay cot, elbows on his knees, hands trembling slightly as he watched Rex, lying unconscious on the padded table beside him. Electrodes were attached to the dog's chest, a gentle beep marking each heartbeat. His fur was still singed in places where the stun blast had struck him. The vet tech, a young woman with tired eyes, adjusted the IV line. "He's stable," she whispered. "The paralysis is temporary. Stun weapons are designed to incapacitate, not kill." Mark let out a breath he'd been holding far too long. That should have comforted him. It didn't. "He took the hit meant for me," Mark murmured, brushing his hand over Rex's paw. "Again." "That's what partners do," she said softly. "No, that's what Rex did." Mark had lost count of how many times Rex had saved lives, officers, civilians, even children during bomb threats. But this was different. This wasn't a random call. This wasn't a routine sweep gone wrong. Someone had come into the airport knowing exactly what they wanted and exactly how to get it. And Rex had sensed it before any human did. Mark's jaw tightened as the weight of that realization settled in his bones. Minutes later, Olivia appeared in the doorway, hair disheveled, uniform stained with dust and smoke. "You okay?" she asked. "Not really, but he will be." Olivia nodded, relief showing in the small exhale she didn't try to hide. "We need you out here," she said quietly. "The director wants a full briefing." Mark hesitated, glancing at Rex. The dog's tail twitched, barely there, but enough. "Go," his eyes seemed to say. Mark stood and followed Olivia out. The command center had transformed into a full emergency war room. Screens flickered with security footage. Officers, analysts, and federal agents filled the space. Maps displayed routes, choke points, and possible escape paths. And in the center, like an accusation, a single screen replayed the attack. Rex lunging, masked intruders swarming, stun bolts firing, the theft of the suitcase. The director, Reuben Grant, a stern man with a permanent scowl carved by decades in federal service, slammed his fist on the table. 5 minutes, Grant growled. They were here for under 5 minutes and managed to steal a high-risk biohazard sample out of a locked facility. 5 minutes. The room remained silent. Grant pointed at the paused image of the masked leader. "Who the hell is this man?" No one answered. Mark stepped forward, voice steady despite the storm in his chest. They weren't improvising. They were executing. Someone trained them. Another agent spoke up. This wasn't some random criminal group. Their formations were military. "Mercenaries?" another suggested. "Black ops?" someone else whispered. Olivia crossed her arms. Whoever they are, they knew Fisher,
or at least knew what he was carrying. Grant turned toward her. "And Fisher?" She replied, "In custody, but he's demanding protection. Says those people aren't done." Mark's stomach twisted at the memory of Fisher's expression as the intruders escaped. Not fear, recognition. The director scrubbed his face with both hands. "We've got a dangerous pathogen missing, an airport breach being replayed on every news station, and a potential domestic threat. The political fallout alone—" A crash cut him off. Everyone turned. One of the analysts had dropped her tablet, eyes wide with horror as she stared at the live news feed streaming across her monitor. Mark stepped toward it. "Breaking news. Mass panic at LAX. Footage of armed attackers goes viral." The video looped, cell phone footage capturing the masked figure sprinting through Terminal 4, Rex attacking, bolts firing. But then the angle shifted. Someone had recorded Mark shielding a child during the chaos, Rex leaping over luggage to intercept a blast that would have hit a family, Olivia dragging injured passengers to cover, and the attackers escaping with the suitcase. The headline beneath twisted Mark's gut. What was inside the black case? Government cover-up suspected. Grant slammed his hand on the table again. "Turn that off!" But it was too late. The room buzzed with incoming alerts. Another agent called out, "Sir, the video is already on social media. It's spreading." "Millions of views," someone else added. A third voice said, "Conspiracy channels are claiming this is the start of a bio-attack." Grant looked like he might explode. Jesus Christ! Mark stared at the screen, jaw tightening. This wasn't just bad. This was catastrophic. As if on cue, someone's radio crackled. "Director Grant, there's a crowd gathering outside the airport. Protesters, journalists. They're demanding answers." Only hours had passed, but the world had already decided this wasn't an isolated event. It was something bigger. Grant turned to Olivia and Mark. "I want both of you in the interrogation room now. I need to know who the hell Fisher really is." The interrogation room was colder than before, lights glaring harshly on Fisher's pale face. He still wore the same clothes, rumpled, stained from the scuffle. His hands were clasped together, knuckles white. "You realize the news is out. You've unleashed hell on this airport." Fisher didn't look up. "I didn't unleash anything." "Then tell us who did," Grant snapped. Fisher finally raised his eyes. "They did." "Who?" Mark demanded. Fisher exhaled shakily. "The people who funded the original project, the ones who ordered its destruction, the ones who will kill to get it back." "Names," Olivia pressed. "I don't know their names. That was the deal, always anonymous. Payments through shells, directives through encrypted channels. I never asked questions, I just delivered results." Grant stepped closer. "Why did they try to kill you?" "Because I broke the rules," Fisher whispered. "Because I kept a backup. I wasn't supposed to, but when I realized what we created, when I understood what it could do, I panicked." Mark exchanged a look with Olivia. "What exactly did you create?" Olivia asked. Fisher swallowed, eyes flickering with dread. "A pathogen that can be controlled," he whispered. "Targeted, directed." Mark froze. Olivia's lips parted slightly. "Meaning?" "Meaning it doesn't infect everyone," Fisher whispered. "Only the ones it's coded for." Silence fell like a stone. A targeted pathogen. A programmable threat. "My God," Grant whispered. Fisher continued, voice heavy with guilt. "I tried to destroy the lab, delete the research, but they arrived before I could finish. They killed everyone." "Everyone?" Mark's breath caught. "Every single one of them," Fisher said, "except me. Because I ran, and I took the only surviving sample. And now they have it again, Mark said. Fisher's eyes filled with tears. Yes, and if they use it, there won't be warning signs. No outbreak, no spreading, just sudden, selective death. A wave of cold washed through the room. Who were they? Grant asked again. Fisher's voice cracked. They called themselves the Directive. Mark stiffened. Olivia's eyes widened. Grant pressed both palms to the table. And what do they want? Fisher looked up. To decide who lives and who doesn't. The room stood still. No one spoke. No one breathed. Because they all understood something horrifying. This wasn't just about a stolen suitcase. This was about control. Mark's phone buzzed suddenly. He pulled it out. A single text from an unknown number. We're not finished. Attached was a photo. Rex, unconscious on the medical table. Taken minutes ago. Mark's blood turned to ice. They had someone inside.
Mark stared at the photo on his phone until the edges of his vision blurred. Rex lay motionless on the medical table, the angle slightly different from the one he'd seen earlier. Someone had taken this picture without being noticed. Someone close. Someone inside the supposedly secure perimeter of the internal canine bay. And someone had sent it to him deliberately, to taunt him, to warn him, or to remind him that they could reach whatever they wanted. Even the one partner Mark trusted more than anyone else. Mark, Olivia's voice was low, tentative. What is it? What's wrong? He turned the phone so she could see it. Her breath caught. Is this from inside this building? Someone's watching, Mark said, the words rough. Someone who shouldn't be. Director Grant leaned over Olivia's shoulder. His expression shifted from impatience to something colder, sharper. When was this taken? Mark checked the timestamp. 7 minutes ago. Grant straightened. Then we have a leak in this facility. An agent near the door muttered, "Another one?" Grant shot him a look. The agent shut up instantly. "This changes our protocols," Grant said. "No one leaves without clearance. No one communicates with the outside. No one operates alone." Mark slid the phone back into his pocket, but the knot in his chest stayed tight. He had served with Rex through gunfights, drug raids, hostage situations. Never once had the dog faltered. Never once had Mark felt this helpless about protecting him. This wasn't a tactical threat. It was psychological warfare. Olivia touched his arm, grounding him. "We'll find who did this." And Mark believed her. But belief didn't erase rage. It didn't erase fear. It didn't erase the fact that the Directive had slipped their fingers once already. Grant cleared his throat. "All right. If the Directive has the pathogen, we have a narrow window before they weaponize it. We must find them before they vanish." Fisher sat slumped at the end of the table, face drawn. "You won't find them by chasing. They don't leave trails." "Everyone leaves trails," Olivia said. "Not them." Mark walked towards Fisher, controlled but intense. "You worked with them. You communicated with them. There has to be something." Fisher shook his head. "It was always one way. Dead drops, blind instructions. You don't understand. They're ghosts. Ghosts that walk into an international airport with military precision and vanish. Ghosts who know how to bypass 3 levels of federal security. And ghosts who have your phone number," Olivia added. Mark didn't react, but Fisher paled even further. Grant's jaw tightened. "We start with the one thing they couldn't conceal, their escape route." He turned to the analysts. "Bring up every piece of footage from the underground levels, maintenance corridors, and loading docks. They didn't evaporate. They went somewhere." Within seconds, the wall screens lit up with fragmented feeds from the airport's underbelly, logistics tunnels, mechanical shafts, staff-only corridors. For several minutes, it was nothing, just empty hallways and flickering lights. And then... "There," Olivia said, pointing at a grainy camera feed.
The masked intruders sprinted through a maintenance tunnel, moving with brutal efficiency. They carried the black suitcase, one person supporting the weight as the others flanked them. Every move was tactical. "Pause," Grant ordered. The footage froze. Mark leaned closer. Look at their path. The tunnel wasn't random. It angled towards the older freight elevators, ones rarely used and often overlooked. Olivia already saw it too. They chose a blind spot. The analyst rewound the footage slightly. A second camera caught the intruders emerging from the tunnel, heading towards a rusted service doorway. "What's behind there?" Grant asked. Mark answered immediately. "The airport's abandoned utility sector." Grant gave him a sharp look. "How do you know that?" "Because I've used it. For canine search drills. It's a maze of old generator rooms and fuel lines. No cameras, no foot traffic. And no oversight," Olivia murmured. Grant exhaled sharply. Perfect place to disappear. The analyst switched feeds again. This time the camera caught the back entrance of the utility sector. The door opened. The intruders emerged, then split into two groups. Group A headed towards the lower parking garages. Group B disappeared up a stairwell to the arrivals level. "That's smart," Olivia said. "Split and force us to divide resources." Mark gestured. "Check the parking garage cameras." They flipped through feeds. Nothing. No van, no vehicle, no obvious getaway. "Back up," Mark said. The analyst scrubbed the footage again. This time Mark spotted something, a small flicker at the frame's edge. "Zoom in," Mark ordered. The image enlarged, though distorted. A service truck. Airport logo, harmless looking, but the license plate caught Mark's attention. "That plate's wrong," Mark said. "Airport logistics plates start with 89. This one starts with 14. Olivia's eyes widened. They stole a service truck. Grant barked to the room. "Check the logs for all service vehicles leaving the airport in the last hour." A frantic flurry of typing followed. Another agent shouted, "Director, a vehicle exited the south gate less than 10 minutes after the breach. No driver ID logged, no security scan, gate was overridden manually." Grant cursed under his breath. "And where did the truck go?" The agent pulled up a map. "It headed east, into the city." Fisher let out a broken sound. "They're going to deploy it." Mark shook his head. "Not yet. They wouldn't deploy it inside the city. Too many witnesses, too unpredictable." Olivia nodded. "They're relocating, going to a safe house. Then they'll prep." Mark's pulse kicked. "We can still catch them." Grant didn't hesitate. "Then we launch a manhunt." He pointed to Olivia. "You're with me. We coordinate from the ops room." Then to Mark. "You're ground team lead. Take whoever you need, but you find that truck." Mark nodded sharply. "Understood." "And Mark," Grant added, voice dropping, "be careful. This group knows who you are." Mark gave a grim smile. "Then they know I'm coming." They were moving within minutes. SWAT mobilized, FED response teams geared up, helicopters were prepped. Mark commandeered a black SUV, Olivia sliding into the passenger seat beside him. She glanced over at him, sensing the tension in his shoulders. "Are you okay?" she asked. "No," Mark said honestly, "but I'm focused." "Good." As they rolled out of the airport perimeter, sirens rose behind them, dozens of vehicles flooding into the city. The hunt had begun. Traffic parted ahead of them as they accelerated onto the freeway. Olivia tapped into live feeds from traffic cams and police reports. The service truck was last seen entering the industrial quarter. Lots of warehouses, abandoned properties, loading docks. "Perfect cover," Mark muttered. "And terrible visibility. We'll manage." Olivia glanced at him again. "You're thinking about Rex." Mark's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "They sent that photo for a reason. They wanted to destabilize me." "Is it working?" He exhaled through his teeth. "No, it's motivating me." "Good, because we're going to need you firing on all cylinders." His phone vibrated. Another message. He didn't check it. Not yet. They cleared the freeway and descended into the industrial quarter, a labyrinth of warehouses and decaying brick buildings soaking in shadows. Olivia zoomed in on a particular zone. "Thermal scans show activity in this block, way more than usual." "Could be them," Mark said. "Or could be a dozen other things." Mark pulled the SUV into an alley and killed the engine. "Not if they're using the same tactics." He checked his weapon, then stepped out. Olivia followed, silent and alert. The air smelled of oil, rust, and secrecy. Everything was still. Too still. Mark's phone buzzed again. This time he looked. The message was a single sentence. "You're already too late." Attached was a map location, less than half a mile from where they stood. Olivia stepped closer. "What is it?" Mark rotated the screen so she could see it. Her eyes darkened. "They're luring us." "I know. But we're going anyway?" Mark nodded. "Absolutely." Together, they moved through the shadows towards the location on the map. The hunt was on, and Mark wasn't stopping until he had Rex safe, the pathogen recovered, and the directive dismantled piece by piece, even if he had to tear the city apart to do it.
The industrial quarter swallowed sound like a graveyard swallowing light. No sirens, no engines, no voices. Just the crunch of Mark's boots against broken concrete and Olivia's quiet, steady breath at his side. The location marked on the message map wasn't far. 3 blocks of silent warehouses, most of their windows shattered, old security lights flickering in the evening haze. Every building looked the same. Metal doors, peeling paint, shadows thick enough to hide an army. "They chose this place carefully," Olivia murmured, sweeping her flashlight across a graffiti-stained wall. "No civilians, no cameras, a perfect kill zone." Mark didn't respond. His focus was razor-thin, the kind that came only when his back was to the wall and someone he loved was in danger. He still had the photo of Rex burned into the inside of his skull. They moved deeper into the alley maze until they reached the coordinates. A warehouse sat in the center of the block, its steel siding rust-eaten and sagging. One side door hung slightly open, the metal bent outward. "Someone forced their way in," Olivia whispered. "Or forced something out," Mark countered. They approached slowly, weapons drawn. Then, a single sound drifted through the crack in the door. A low growl. Not threatening, not warning. Recognizable. Mark froze. Olivia felt it instantly. "Mark, is that—" He didn't wait for her to finish. He shoved the door open and stormed inside, flashlight slicing through the darkness. "Rex!" His voice echoed through the vast, empty space. And then there he was. Rex lay on the concrete floor near a stack of crates, body curled tight, sides rising and falling in shallow breaths. Wires and sensors had been ripped off him, scattered across the ground like pieces of a broken machine. His eyes fluttered open at the sound of Mark's voice. Mark dropped to his knees, heart pounding. "Hey, buddy, I'm here. I'm right here." Rex gave a weak huff, nudging Mark's hand with his nose. It wasn't a bark or a growl. It was recognition, relief, trust. But something was wrong. Olivia knelt beside them. "He's sedated, heavy tranquilizers. But why leave him here for you to find?" Mark stroked Rex's fur, jaw tight. "This isn't a rescue." Olivia's eyes widened. She stood, scanning the warehouse again. "Mark, this is a trap." As if on cue, the warehouse lights snapped on. Harsh, white, blinding. Mark's instincts flared, but before he could react, the metal door slammed shut behind them with a deafening clang. Shadows detached from the upper walkways. Figures dropped down the metal stairs in silent formation. Black tactical gear, masked faces, weapons raised. The directive. At least 8 of them. Mark and Olivia stood back to back, guns aimed, Rex at their feet struggling to lift his head. One of the masked operatives stepped forward, taller than the others, broader, moving with a confidence that came from being the one in control. He stopped 10 feet away. "Officer Daniels," he said. His voice was calm, cold, almost bored. "You've been a difficult variable." Olivia fired first, a warning shot meant to force repositioning.
but the bullet hit something invisible, a shimmer of energy, and deflected into the wall. Mark blinked. What the hell? Electromagnetic shield, the operative said. Borrowed technology. Classified. Nobody believes it exists, and yet... He gestured around the warehouse. Here we are. Olivia swore under her breath. Mark, they came prepared. They always do, the leader said. Mark kept his gun steady. Where's the pathogen? The man chuckled softly. Safe, and no longer any concern of yours. That suitcase didn't leave the city, Olivia said, voice sharp. You wanted us here instead. Correct. Why? Mark demanded. The man tilted his head. Because your dog compromised our mission, and you, Officer Daniels, have become unpredictable. Olivia stepped forward, fury rising. You abducted a police canine. You nearly killed him. You broke into a federal facility. You stole a bioweapon, and you think Mark is the problem? The leader ignored her. He looked directly at Mark. You have a reputation for loyalty, precision, obedience. But loyalty has limits. And yours, he spread his hands, has become inconvenient. Mark took a slow breath. If you wanted me dead, you had plenty of chances. That is not your fate. Mark stiffened. Meaning? The leader nodded at the agents flanking him. Two of them stepped forward and kicked a crate aside. Behind it was a steel container. Thick, reinforced, air-sealed. Olivia squinted. What is that? The leader clasped his hands behind his back like a teacher about to deliver a lesson. The pathogen, he said. A modified strain, weaponized, stable. Mark's stomach dropped. You didn't escape with it. We didn't need to. We already had a sample inside the airport. Your dog simply found the decoy. Olivia swore. They played us! The leader continued, voice smooth as glass. What we require, Officer Daniels, is not your death. It is your silence. Mark stared at him, not understanding. And then, join us. Olivia inhaled sharply. Mark, don't even think... The leader held up one hand. You are wasting your talent in that uniform. The directive rewards skill, discipline, instinct. You have all three. You and your dog. Mark's blood ran cold. You want Rex? We want potential. Both of you would have it with us. Mark moved instinctively between Rex and the leader. Not happening. A pause. A long, dangerous pause. Then the leader nodded once, almost regretful. Then we will remove you from the equation in other ways. The operatives raised their weapons. Mark grabbed Rex's leash, ready to shield him with his own body. Olivia braced herself beside him. If we're going down, we take as many as we can. Mark almost smiled. Wouldn't have it any other way. The leader raised his hand, and the warehouse exploded with motion. Not from Mark, not from Olivia. From above. A crash ripped through the skylight as a tactical drone dropped from the ceiling, smashing into the metal walkway. The directive operative spun toward the noise just as a thunderous shout echoed through the warehouse. Federal Tactical! On the ground! Dozens of agents poured in through the rear loading bay, weapons blazing, flashbangs detonating in blinding bursts. Grant led the charge. Olivia blinked. How did they find us? Mark didn't waste time. He grabbed Rex and pulled him behind a stack of crates. Grant followed my phone signal. The messages they sent me weren't just threats.
They were breadcrumbs. The warehouse erupted into chaos. Gunfire, shouts, taking cover. Operatives scattering like shadows hit by sunlight. The leader of the directive retreated behind a steel pillar, shouting orders. "Protect the container! Fall back!" Grant spotted Mark. "Daniels, you're supposed to be dead!" "Not today," Mark yelled back. Grant kicked a weapon toward him. "Finish this!" Mark rose from behind the crates, gun steady. Across the warehouse, the leader locked eyes with him. For a split second, the world narrowed to two people. Then the leader bolted toward the steel container. Mark sprinted after him. "Mark!" Olivia called, firing at two operatives trying to intercept. But Mark didn't stop. The leader reached the container, pulled the detonator from his pocket. Mark fired. The bullet struck the detonator, sparks flying as the device clattered across the floor. The leader hissed, "You don't understand the bigger picture." Mark tackled him to the ground. They crashed into the concrete, grappling, striking, rolling through dust and debris. The leader grabbed for a hidden knife. Mark twisted his wrist until the blade dropped. "You want to kill millions. I want to correct the world." Mark slammed him against the ground. "Not today." The leader reached for a second knife, and Rex, weak but determined, lunged. He clamped onto the man's arm, teeth sinking in deep. The leader screamed. Mark finished the fight with a single, hard strike that knocked him unconscious. Silence finally fell. Not the silence of fear, the silence of survival. Olivia ran to Mark, panting, tears in her eyes. "You're insane, completely insane." Mark looked down at Rex, who nudged his hand proudly. "He saved us," Mark whispered. Grant approached, nodding stiffly. "And you saved the city." The steel container was secured, the pathogen neutralized, the directive operatives arrested, except a few who managed to vanish into the night. But their leader was down, their operation destroyed, their secret exposed. Mark picked up Rex carefully, holding him close. Olivia placed a gentle hand on both of them. "Let's go home." Mark exhaled, exhausted, hollow, relieved. "Yeah, let's go home." As they walked out of the warehouse, sirens flashing, agents shouting, the night sky breaking open above them, Mark knew this wasn't the end. Not entirely. The directive wasn't gone. But tonight the world was safe because one dog refused to ignore a black suitcase on a conveyor belt, and because a handler listened. Together, they had stepped into the shadows and come back.